Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the game Stop Thief. This came out in 2017, though it's based on a game from 1979, I believe. So it's, restoration games. They do kind of like bringing old games back. And they make a lot of changes, but try to give a nod to the original game. So let's go ahead and talk about how to set it up. Alright, first thing you'll do is place the game board in the middle of the play area. Next you'll take your two stacks of money, you got 5,000s and 1,000s, and just set that somewhere near the board to form a bank. Then you'll take your thief deck, shuffle that up, and place that somewhere near the bank. Each player will take an investigator meeple, the corresponding ID card, and the corresponding deck of 6 movement cards. The cards will be taken into the player's hand. I'm setting up for 3 players, so I've got Vivian O here, Pepper Gonzalez, and John Jimmy James. Each player will place their investigator meeple on the number 500 space at the subway. So we'll place all 3 players' meeples there. Each player will then get $3,000 from the bank. Alright, this is an app-driven game, so the next thing you do is launch the Restoration Games app, either from your phone or from your tablet or your kid's tablet like I'm doing here. Sorry about this reflection, I always have that problem when I'm doing an app-driven game. Anyway, then you'll see the list of Restoration Game apps, and we'll be playing Stop Thief. So you would launch that, and it will tell you who will be the first player. So you say new game. Then you have different game modes: cooperative, competitive, which is the standard, which is what we're gonna choose. There's retro, using the sounds and interface from the original 1979, which had a handheld electronic device. And then there's a 1 versus many mode and a solo mode. We'll be going over the standard game, so we'll select that. Standard competitive, and it'll say a different, so in this case the first player is the one who owns the game, but each time it says a little different something to select who's the first player. In our case, since I'm the one that owns the game and I'm all the players, we'll just have the blue player be our first player. Now before we move on to start the game, I'm going to go ahead and go over the rules. Now this is a kind of when you're playing the standard cooperative game or competitive game, what's going to happen is the thief, which is controlled by the app, is going to commit a crime, and it's going to tell you which one of these buildings. So it's either going to be Swingerton's, whatever this department store, Dr. Doyle's Electronics, Trust US Bank, or the museum here, and it's going to make a alarm sound. So you'll know, and it'll tell you the building, so you'll know that the crime is committed in one of the red spaces. The red spaces are where the crime can be committed at. So those are the possible crime scenes. So it'll make the sound like an alarm sound in, say, Swingerton's department store or something like that. And so you'll know that one of these crime scene locations is where the thief is currently at. You don't know which one, but you know, and if it said at the museum, you would know it was at one of these red spaces. Alright, so then the first player begins their turn. They'll have the app in front of them. The first thing they do on their turn is get a clue, so it'll say get a clue on the app, and again we'll see that here in a little bit. And so they'll select that, and everybody gets to hear that clue. Now the clue might be the sound of footsteps, so that means like if the crime was committed here and you hear footsteps, then that means the thief could have moved here or here. The thief will only move onto numbered spaces. Oh, and I should have mentioned the first thing you'll do when you hear the crime sound when you start the game is it'll tell you to flip over the top thief card. So that'll be the thief you're currently pursuing. And they'll have some little ability or power that's different than the other ones. So for instance, every time Selena moves onto a window space, you'll add $2,000 to her reward. This is the current reward for the player that catches her. And again, it says she'll get $2,000. You'll add $2,000 anytime that she moves onto a window space. And we'll talk about how you know that in a minute. So when the thief moves, they move along these paths. They do not stop on these circle spaces. Only players use those spaces. So if you hear a footstep sound, then that means, say the crime was committed here. If you hear a footstep sound, that's on these black square blocks. So you'll know the thief is either here or here. Now, of course, you don't know which of these red crime scene locations the thief is at. So maybe you hear footsteps, you'll say, well, if the crime was committed here, they could be here or here. If the crime was committed here, they could be here. If the crime was committed here. So it doesn't really narrow it down. You'll know it couldn't have been this one because there is no footstep they could move to from this location. If you hear, when you play a clue, a door creaking, then you'll know they've opened a door somewhere. So if the first sound you heard after the initial crime scene was a door opening, well, you know they could be there if the crime was committed here. They could be either here or here or here if the crime was committed here. They could be here or here if the crime was committed here. They couldn't be here because you would have to have heard footsteps first, and they could be here. You may hear a window breaking sound, which would mean the thief just broke a window and is in one of the window locations. You may hear like some outside city noise, crowd noise or something, in which case you'll know the thief is walking on one of these diamond numbered spaces outside. And when that's an inside location, you just hear footsteps. When it's an outside, you hear kind of a crowd noise. And again, we'll hear that when we play the app. And then if you hear like a muffled speaker sound, then that means the thief is on one of the subway locations that are around the board. And if you hear like hold music, elevator type music or whatever it's called, then that means the thief just stayed where they were. All right, so again, back to a player's turn. First thing they'll do is select get a clue, which all the players will hear, and it'll be the sound of some sound that'll give you an idea of where the thief may have moved, either footsteps or a door or a window. So it gives you a kind of an idea where they might be. I've talked about some of the rules for thief movement. Another rule, a thief will never move back to a space they just moved from. So if the thief had moved from here, they wouldn't move back to here. The thief can move on to these subway spaces, but they cannot use the subway as the players can. When we talk about player movement, they can move from one subway space to another. The thief cannot. He can move on to one of those spaces, but he can't use the subway. Or he or she, whatever the thief is. In this case, our current thief is a she. And if a thief moves on to another crime scene location, you'll get the alarm sound, so you'll know they've robbed another location. If a thief robs another location on the board and you get the crime, the alarm sound, you'll add $1,000 to their thief card, upping the reward to catch them. and they may end up robbing several things if they're not moving on to several crime scenes and robbing several times if they're not caught before that happens. Okay, so back again to a player's turn. First thing they'll do is select a clue. That'll make some sound, which will give you some idea of where the thief could possibly be. And again, all players will hear that. The next thing a player will do is play a card from their hand. So the cards in a player's hand, first they have a number that tells you how many spaces they're allowed to move. And as I said, when players move, they actually do move along these, both the numbered spaces and the little circles. So if blue, played a card where they were going to move 8, they could move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or something like that. Now, normally the investigator players are not allowed to move through window spaces like the thieves are, but some cards may have an ability like this one that I showed. During your move, you may move onto or through window spaces. So if you play one like that, then you can move onto or through window spaces. If not, the only way you can enter the building is through one of the doors. Once you play a card on your turn for movement, then that card stays out of your hand until some effect, usually by in a future turn, you play a card such as this that says at the end of your turn you get to pick up all your movement cards. So as you play your movement, as you take turns and play your movement cards, your hand will become smaller. You'll have less choices, but again, you always will have a card that allows you to pick up your other ones. But usually, of course, the movement on that card is not very good. All the players' movement cards are a little different. They're somewhat similar, but each different player will have maybe some unique abilities on their card that maybe the other players don't have. Like the move through window spaces for this player. Usually all the players will have a clue like this. A movement card similar to this that lets you get a private tip. So if this player played this card before moving get a private tip, on the app there's a selection you can make that says private tip, and only you will see that, and it will tell you the exact location that the thief is at that time. So you can see this player's special abilities are usually that they can move through windows, while Pepper Gonzalez's special abilities are that she can take $1,000 from another investigator if they have it. If they don't, of course, she can't. John Jimmy James here doesn't have a lot of special abilities, but he does have where he can get a private tip that has a higher number, and he has a couple of those, and his card to pick up move cards at the end of his movement is a little higher than the other players. So as I said, when you play a card, you can move up to that number of spaces. You don't have to move the full number of spaces of the card that you used. You can move through other players. So, if this player was here, this player could move through them, but you cannot land on a space that another player occupies. The only exception to that is subway spaces, so more than one player can share a subway space, any of the subway spaces on the board. If a player lands on a subway space, they can move to any other subway space on the board, but then they immediately end their movement. So if this guy played a 10 card and he moved 1, 2, 3, and then it's a free movement to the subway space, like if he came over here, but then his movement ends. Now if you have an effect on your card that lets you do something after you move, then you can still do that effect. Alright, so again, you get on your turn, you get a clue, you play a movement card and move, and the third thing you can do on your turn, which is an optional, is attempt to make an arrest. So if you were on the space you think the thief is in, or adjacent to the space you think the thief is in. So like if you were here in this space and you thought the thief was in either 332 or 333, you could attempt to make an arrest. If you thought he was in 324, you could not attempt to make an arrest because you're not quite adjacent to it. You would have to be there. And you can be on the same space that you think the thief is in and attempt to make an arrest. So if you want to do that, you think you are on the space or adjacent to the space that the thief is at, on the app you select attempt arrest. You enter the space number that you believe the thief is at. That's public knowledge. You have to tell the other players what number you're entering. And then you'll either get a sound on the app and notification that you're correct, or you'll get a notification that you're wrong. If you're wrong, you have to pay $1,000 back to the bank if you have it. So if you have it, you'll pay the $1,000 back to the bank and your turn ends, and then play continues clockwise to the next player. If you're correct, then the thief is captured, so you'll collect the reward money shown and any additional reward money that's been placed on the card, either from some effect on the card or from them committing additional crimes. You'll then discard the current thief card. After the thief is successfully arrested, the app will ask you, do you have enough money to win the game? Which we'll talk about how much that is here in a minute. But if the answer is no, you select no. It'll make a new crime scene sound and tell you to reveal a new thief. You'll reveal the new thief, and then the next player in clockwise order will begin with their turn of and play will continue like that until you'll continue chasing after thieves and capturing them until one player has acquired enough money to win the game. So I'm going to mention that I believe I have the first edition of the game. I think I read somewhere that the second edition of the game lowers the amount of money required to win the game. I don't know. I haven't looked at those rules. So if there's anything different in the current version of the game than the one that I got from 2017, I don't know that. I'm just speaking towards these rules. So in a two-player game, you would need $45,000 to win. In a three-player game, you'd need $35,000 to win. And in a four-player game, you would need $25,000 to win. I believe that I read that in the newer edition that's been lowered by $5,000 for each case. But again, I can't verify that. I haven't looked it up and read actually any actual rules changes. And that's it. I mean, the rules are pretty simple. Again, there are different modes, cooperative mode, solo mode, whatever else we looked at there, I can't remember. I've actually never played any of those other modes. I've only played the standard mode. So let's go ahead and set the game back up how it should be right at the beginning, and we'll go over some example turns. Alright, so we've got everybody on the subway space. Everybody's got their starting $3,000, got their full hand of cards. So we'll bring up the app. We will select Start Game. Alright, so the first player, which we said is going to be the blue player, will slide to get a clue. So now we know the crime has been committed in the Museum of Modern Antiquity, and we'll reveal the thief card. So our current thief is Robert Sherwood. When captured, after collecting your reward, choose another investigator to take $2,000 from the bank. Well, I don't know why you want to do that, but I guess you have to. All right. So, the blue player knows that a crime has has been committed at one of the crime scenes in the Museum of Modern Antiquity, which is here. So we know the thief is at one of these 4 crime scenes. We'll hit continue. Alright, so now this player will look at their cards, and we'll just say they're going to move 7. They're going to play that card, which allows them to move 7, and they can move through window spaces, which normally players can't. That's our blue player. So we'll say she's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She can move through the window. 7, and she will stop there. She doesn't know for sure that the crime was committed there, but she's kind of hoping it is since she's close to there. But she doesn't want to lose $1,000 by trying to attempt an arrest and then the thief's not really there. So she's not going to attempt to make an arrest, so she's just going to end her turn. So she'll select the end turn. Now we go on to, we hand the tablet to the next player, which is our red player. You know, Jimmy James, John Jimmy James. So now he will slide to get a clue. So we hear a door open. So we know the thief moved from the crime location to a door. So if the crime was committed here, it could be this door, or this door, or this door. If the crime was committed here, it could be this door. If the crime was committed here, it could be this door. If the crime was committed here, it could be this door. And it could be this door. Alright, so we still don't have a good idea where the thief is. We just know they're on one of those doors in there, but there's lots it could still be. So old John Jimmy James, he's going to play this one. Move 6, and then after moving, get a private tip. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now, after moving, he gets to get a private tip. So this, only he gets to see this information. So he's going to get a private tip. Are you sure you want a private tip? Yes. Okay, so we know that the thief is at number 365. So we would look at the board, and we know that's a door. And it's not where he's at. It's this one right here. So we know the crime was committed here, and then the thief moved here. But only Jimmy John James knows that. Or John Jimmy James. So then he'll select this so the other players can't see that. And then, of course, he's not close enough to try to make an arrest there. So he'll just kind of keep that to himself and pass the app on to the next player, who is Pepper Gonzalez. And before doing that, he'll end his turn. Alright, now it's Pepper Gonzalez, so she gets to slide and get a clue. Maybe. Slide and get a clue. There. Oh, so the thief moved to another crime location. So John Jimmy James knows since the thief was there and he wouldn't move back, that he probably moved here and committed a crime. So the John Jimmy James has a good idea of where the thief is at. The other ones aren't for sure. They know that the thief is at one of the crime locations, but they don't really have enough information, I don't think, to know for sure. But now old Pepper, she's going to play a card. She wants to move pretty far, so she's going to play an 11. So she's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. She's trying to get into the center of the board. Now she doesn't have any clue. She's not going to guess that's where the thief is, so she's going to end her turn. So she'll just select end turn. Alright, so now it comes back to the blue player. Alright, Vivian O, she's going to slide to get a clue. I don't know why. There we go. So they all hear a door open. So they know the last space the thief was at a crime scene, and now they hear a door open. So old John Jimmy James, he's the only one that has a pretty good idea that the thief is now here at number 386. The other ones, I think they're still pretty clueless. So Vivian O, she's like, I don't really have a clue. I'm gonna play this number 3 before moving. I get a private tip, so she'll select the private tip, get a private tip. Oh, 367. Oh, so Jimmy Jum James, he was thinking the thief was there, but look, they could have moved here. So he really doesn't know if he was thinking there and really the thief's here. But now Vivian O does know, and she did that. So she'll click here so the others don't see. And then she gets to move 3. So she will move 1, 2, 3. She didn't really get to move very far. So I don't know how helpful that's going to be for her, but that's going to be the end of her turn. So she will select end turn. Now John Jimmy James, it's his turn, so he's going to get a clue. I don't know why this, on that phone, this works a lot better. Oh, okay, window breaking. So he knows a window broke. So originally he was thinking that the thief was here, but now he hears a window break, so he says, well, they couldn't be there because their next move would have to be outside footsteps. So then he says, oh, if they went this way, because we heard the door and now we hear a window break, they got to be there. And Vivian O, she's thinking she knows because she knows the thief was there, and now she hears a window break, so she knows. So the only one that probably doesn't have a good clue is old Pepper Gonzalez. But it's now John Jimmy James' turn to play card. So he wants to move pretty far, so he's going to play a 9. And he's going to come back outside. He's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, he can't get close enough to attempt an arrest. And now old Pepper Gonzalez is saying, oh, he knows something. He knows the thief's over that way because he went moving that way. So now she has a pretty good idea that that's probably where the thief is. And of course, old Vivian O knows as well. But anyway, John Jimmy James has got to end his turn because he can't make an arrest. So now we'll move to Pepper Gonzalez, who now, because she saw where John Jimmy James moved to, has a pretty good idea of where the thief is. But she gets to get a clue. Okay, so we hear outside footsteps. So she's got a pretty good idea that the thief is either here or here. So now she has to play a guard card. She'll play a 10. Now she's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So she's going to try to come around that way. She knows she's not in position to make an arrest, so she's going to have to stop right there, and she have to end her turn. Alright, we'll play a little further and see if we can't get an arrest. Alright, we're back to Vivian O. It's her turn. She's going to slide to get a clue, if this thing would work. More outside footsteps. So she has a pretty good idea that the thief is out here as well. So the thief, she's thinking, could either be here, or maybe here, or even over here. So she's going to play her 11. And she's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. She's not going to attempt an arrest, so she's just going to end her turn. And now we'll go on to Jimmy John's. John Jimmy James. Jimmy John's, that's a Subway sandwich. Or not a Subway. Anyway, I'm getting off track. John Jimmy James. Alright, he's going to get a clue. Get a clue. he hears another footstep sound. Now you can always click this review clues and see, you know, the oldest one here. Crime scene door, glass break, outside footsteps, outside footsteps, outside footsteps. So he can play a card. He's going to do this one before moving, get a private tip. So he's going to get a private tip. He's going to look 719. Oh, the thief's right here next to him. So he got to do that before moving, so he'll go ahead and move. He could stay where he is and make an arrest, but he'll go ahead and move right on top of him because that's what he wants to do. So he's going to make an arrest. He's going to announce to everybody 719, confirm. The thief is successfully caught, so he would collect $8,000, and then after collecting his reward, he would choose another investigator to take $2,000. So he would choose one of the other investigators. They would get $2,000. He would get $8,000. Then this gets discarded. Now it says, did catching this thief earn you enough money to win the game? No, because he needs $35,000. So he hits no. All right, a new crime was committed at Swinnerton's department store, which is in here, and reveal the next thief card. So we would reveal the next thief card. And we've got old Danny Atlantic. When captured, each other investigator gets $1,000 from the bank, unless it would cause them to win. And his prize money or capture reward is $10,000. And so we would start again. So I think that gives you a good idea of how the game plays. Of course, they still don't get to pick up their cards until they play a card that allows them to. And of course, he caught that thief, so the next turn would start with Pepper Gonzalez here. And the players stay where they're at, so they've got a long ways to move over here to Swinnerton's. But they could use the subway right here, and they could pop up back over here or back over here. What is it? It's not Swinnerton's, it's Swinnerton's. Anyway, so I think that gives a good idea of how the game plays. It's a fun family game. Although I found when I've been playing it with my family that everybody's just shouting out where they think the thief is, even when it's not their turn. So I don't know, maybe playing in the cooperative mode would be better. We actually hadn't played this in quite a while, but yeah, it's kind of fun. So I may pull it out with the family again. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.